Step into a world, but there's no one there. I feel privileged and honored to be in your world, Kevin Knight. East Coast sensation. What's good, babe?
Not a whole lot at the moment, but just had the finish of my life in Myrtle, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, sorry about the delay. I had to go back and get this.
Oh, fair enough.
This is one of those things. It brings me joy. It brings me it brings me a buzz. What's in it for the people at home? None of your damn business. So again, once again, people, welcome. This is episode 60. This is the Option Podcast. I got to give the people what they want, and this week it's Kevin Knight. Kevin, let's start the easy way, the way I know how. Let's talk about Myrtle Beach. Now, Myrtle Beach, basically, I think outside of the three AVP weekend series, and you might agree with me, was probably the biggest men's doubles open tournament this year. I think you're going to see FUDs and you're going to see AVP America, Atlantic City, but this one was awesome. Thoughts?
Yeah, truly a special event. Really, really strong on the men's and women's side. Uh, the men's side obviously had the Olympians, Nick and Phil, and then potential future Olympians, the Crab brothers. Piotr was there playing with Matt Heath. Um, and on the women's side, you had Piotr's wife playing with I think Adam's fiance, Kaya and Jade, and Bree was playing with local Lydia, who's coming up and really strong on that side, and then Julia Scholes and her partner, who I think won the whole thing, are an unbelievable college pair. So the women's side was a huge turnout as well. So like top to bottom, the whole event was just unbelievable, and the atmosphere is obviously amazing. I think it's been a really underrated tournament that not a lot of people have known about for years and years. That Nick has secretly shown up to play with a guy named Pete Devonair, who when Nick started down in Florida was kind of a hot shot on the Florida scene at the time. He was a 6 foot run up blocker in the old school game.
Okay.
So the dentist Pete Devonair, and so Nick kind of learned a little bit from Pete and has since paid homage to him, coming back every year to Myrtle to play. And so that was my introduction into kind of the bigger beach volleyball scene that is the AVP was getting to be a local playing against Nick Lucena in Myrtle.
Yeah, and you played with Jerko, right?
Yeah, so this weekend I played with TJ Jerko. I think he pronounces it Yurko.
Sorry.
But he was a pickup that I got linked through Bree Scarborough earlier this summer. And I think he trains down in Fort Lauderdale with some really, really good athletes. And he's kind of made the transition from like a split block to more of a true defender,
Mm.
and was looking for kind of a side out heavy ball control blocker, and I kind of fit the bill. And our first event actually was in Wilmington, and we took a second there, but we played really, really, really well against Angel Dace, and then in the finals ended up dropping a close one to Adam Roberts and Ian Satterfield at the time.
Who did
And
Dace
so he
play
was
with?
like,
Who did Dace play
huh?
with? Did he play with Bruno? Did
He
Angel
was
play
playing
with
with a
Bruno?
kid. I don't know if you know him, Caleb Jenis. He's about 6'6", really,
Yeah.
really long, really, really athletic. Hits a very, very heavy ball. Kind of just difficult overall to deal with. He's going to be a force on the scene when he gets done at Ball State. Really young guy.
Yep. So back to Myrtle Beach, you had to chop down some trees to make it to the finals, and this is something many would affectionately refer to as your coming out party. I mean, everyone knew you were a baller. You had as much respect as the next man. I'm not saying you're a jag meaning just a guy, but I mean, right? At some point, you got to get past Nick, or at some
Yeah.
point, you got to get past Phil. At some point, like Jeff Samuels, I mean, pretty much in the Midwest or East, he's always there at the end, and he's one of my favorite players. He's battling some injuries and here and there, but for some reason, right? It's like everywhere you go, it's him and someone else in the semifinals. And I think I'm gonna say the same thing about Evan Corey, who maybe we'll talk about a little bit later. Youngster, I don't know if you
Oh
know
yeah.
him or not. Evan Corey is pain in the ass lefty. He's for real, dude.
He's
So
dude, he's coming up. You asked if I know him. I mean, I don't know him super personally, but
mhm,
I know his finishes this year have been unbelievable. He's won like almost a dozen tournaments, and definitely going to be picked up by somebody or another in
Yeah.
this next year. I would expect that. I mean, personally, I would expect that he qualifies, if not next year, then the year after. But I would expect him to be on tour.
I think any
He's
situation where he hooks up with a partner where the other team has to serve him is the comfortable situation he's looking for, right? I
oh
mean,
yeah,
I coached against him. First time I met him, I coached against him. I was Jake Arudia and
yep,
Earl Schultz's coach, and we were had a unique opportunity to like friend and Budinger, the one seed got ousted,
okay,
and then Evan Corey and Valela beat who ousted them, and that put us in. And I just huddled up and I said, guys, you ain't. I mean, you lost to the Cubans, in Huntington Beach. And then later on, like Manhattan Beach, they lost to Kalinsky and Baranek, and then in Chicago they lost to Hayden and Brunner. I'm like, if there's any fucking opportunity, and this is me just seeing the future, right? Not like I'm psychic or nothing, but I said
yeah.
if there's any opportunity for you to get in, this is it. And we served Corey like 3 balls, and that was all I
Yeah,
wanted. And that was all I wanted to do with
not
him.
all anybody
Yeah,
anybody ever said.
and I understood that Valela had staff too, so he was wearing black sweats, black long sleeve like a hoodie. I'm like, it
Oh
is
wow.
bacon. It is bacon more than Kevin out there right now. It's in July, right? And I'm like, this dude he's gonna get hazed by the crowd. We got Rosie's Raiders. You got hecklers. It's like this motherfucker's in black. So
Yeah. No, so
you,
we had a really tough route.
mhm,
So actually, to give you a little bit of background, we ended up playing my old partner. So the first guy to really give me a call on the East Coast, that I would consider kind of well above me, was Brian Dirks. He's this local Myrtle Beach guy that Adam actually trains with when he goes
mhm,
back to Myrtle. Adam Roberts
yeah,
calls up Brian Dirks, and Brian is this like just wonderful like 6'8" guy. He's got two twins. He's like a handyman at the local Myrtle Beach school system. So like the most wholesome guy. But really, really, he's been playing for about 10 years. He's a talented guy. Doesn't travel a ton, but he gave me my first real opportunity to play with somebody a lot better than I am, and I'll always remember him for that. And so we ended up getting to play against him the first round, which he was playing with Ian Capp, who, if you know, actually made the finals of Grass Nationals doubles and triples. So a really talented Ian Capp, a really talented Brian Dirks, and they were a grinder of a first match. So that was a blast, and a really, really tough test. And then our next match was against the one and only Beijing Beast, Phil Dahlhauser,
mhm,
and he was playing with John Sutton.
John Sutton, yeah,
And so, the strategy is the same regardless of who's Phil's playing with. And so
yeah.
it's obviously Phil.
Make
So,
Phil the best setter in the tournament. That's your strategy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that one ended up going three.
Mhm.
My most recent post is I actually screenshotted the moment that Phil and I did rock, paper, scissors. And one, it was because I won rock, paper, scissors, but two, it was because Phil and I are the two blockers on the court. And I think, especially from the camera angle of the photo, I end up looking about 5'3", and Phil looks like the giant that he is.
Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty much how I
so that
feel
was
every time I hug Ryan Doherty. But yeah, hello,
yeah,
come
yeah,
here, son.
exactly. Uh,
That's right.
I go up the block and TJ's like, you should take this or that on two. And I looked at TJ and I was like, no, we just got to serve hard enough so we can't do it because I ain't blocking anything.
Yeah. Was
Um,
when you played them? Let me interrupt you for a second. For me as a coach, like if I want to get rid of the option, I like to serve deep middle, left
yeah,
shoulder, because it at least takes away the hitters who's doing the option. It takes that court vision away. You don't want to serve short unless you got him right. You don't want to serve position one right shoulder like zone one unless you could get him. Unless you serve to space, makes the ball like an uncontrollable wobble, which I think Phil could hit anyway. So, how much of that came into play? And this is why I cut you off. How much of that came into play when you were playing Phil and Sutton?
yeah. I mean, so TJ and I talked about it quite a bit. I have a heavy top spin. That's what I've kind of made my money on out here.
Yeah,
Uh,
serve to
that's how
space.
that's how I get away with being a small like 6'2" blocker.
Hmm.
And so my strategy was pretty obvious. I was trying to bury balls in between them and on the sideline, especially when the wind was kind of going cross breeze on John's bad side. So TJ is a floater, and I actually had him. He didn't do it a ton, but so it was either a really high deep float towards the chest, so it's harder to push the ball up towards Phil, Or it was if you can put a ton of spin on the ball coming off the platform, it's really hard to control
Yeah.
and get any sort of consistent up and down ball for the on two.
Yeah.
And both of those strategies ended up being, I mean, effective enough for us to
Yeah.
win and
Yep.
neutralize Phil a little bit. I mean, he still went on two, whenever he could, but we were kind of a tough matchup because he and I both are able to get people out of system with our serves, and that makes it a lot tougher for Phil to take over.
Yeah, man. I saw a little bit of the video, and a lot of the up and downs went towards the hitter instead of towards like the target where Phil could use his hands or option. And I felt like anything where he was going up and down, where Phil had to like step in. You know what I'm saying? Use that right leg and step in because he's the reason why he's such a good option hitter, and it's a technical embarrassment is because he is a goofy foot. It's one of those things where he can take an inside set and then jump in that way and cut back. My girlfriend, sorry, my life force, my everything, my wifey, she's a goofy foot and she's really good at like crossbody cut back. If you look at the Lion King, Samoylov's another guy that's good with the cutback, and it's because the things that's supposed to grind your biomechanics is the same thing that has given them success. It's freaking weird.
Yeah.
So I saw a bunch of the videos. Cool. Was that the quarters?
So it was the quarters on the winner side. The winner of that would go into the 2-versus-3 match to get straight to the semis. And that match ended up being against Adam Roberts and Trevor Crabb, who top to bottom would actually, I would say would technically be a tougher team because you really don't have, I mean, obviously you're going to go for Adam because he's, Trevor is incredibly difficult to deal with.
They don't have a lot of holes either.
Yeah. But it's a much tougher team top to bottom because you have two guys that are unbelievably consistent. And like I said before, I'm not a big block. So I rely on my serve pretty heavily to get people out of system, and you're not getting Adam and Trevor out of system super often.
Right.
And so we knew that going into that we were just going to have to play like a flawless game for 2 or 3 sets. And so in terms of competition, I would say that was actually an even tougher match than the Phil match where the strategy was way more obvious. And that was I was definitely on cloud 9 after getting to play against kind of my idol Phil Dahlhauser and getting the win over him. But to get the 2 back to back, I was just like I just had to sit under a tent for a while and try and take it in because I was getting, I mean, if you haven't ever seen TJ Yurko play, you got to watch this guy. He's got an absolute whip of an arm swing, and you never know where it's going.
It's very much like Adam Roberts.
Blocks I've ever seen.
It's very much like Adam Roberts. Like some of his out of system stuff, he just jumps back, takes his whatever, and it looks like a normal swing, but his contact is like, you got to readjust your matrix. Sorry, go ahead.
It's incredibly sharp. It's incredibly fast, and there's a reason nobody serves him.
Right.
So he's an unbelievable partner to play with. But for me, it's like I know, the moment they see him snap a high line and then the very next ball look identical and then snap a sharp cutty and then the next ball look identical and pound one angle, they're like, all right, we're not dealing with him anymore. We're just going to serve the big blonde guy who just swings.
Pain in the ass. Yeah.
And so TJ really helped me get through that match because I was going to have to shoulder the heavy hitting load and he was like. He was telling me what he's seeing. He was telling me, where he thinks that I'm going to have the most success on any given play, depending on where the wind's coming from.
Yeah.
So he was definitely my rock through the Adam Roberts match.
How much have you guys played together prior to that?
Just that Wilmington tournament that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So we haven't gotten to train together and haven't gotten to play together much, but we have really, really good on-court chemistry. And I can't say enough about the guy. He's just super easy to play with. He's very positive as a partner. He just can do everything. I
don't know who this guy is, and I have a very small sample size. I've only seen him play the two matches that I watched you play because you guys, and you could definitely plug in Eastern Volleyball Network at the end of this podcast because the it's one of the fastest ascending YouTube handles I've ever seen. Everyone's just jumping in on this, and sometimes it's just about product, right? It's what made NY Varsity, like I go to a UCLA indoor game and and I'm using the bathroom, and this guy's like, "Hey, my son's from Arizona, and he watches all your games," and it's one of those feel good feelings, and you're gonna expect to get a lot of that, and you just exercise your humility, which you already possess, and say, "Thank you, I appreciate it," because you're gonna be saying a lot of that. Trust me. And
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I didn't even wait to the end. I just plugged it in now.
I was going to say thank you for plugging that and having me on. The really just short 2-second
Please.
brief story of that is literally my guy Graham and I are huge volleyball nerds on the East Coast and known as such, and a little bit made fun of as such in our little communities. But we always have this like really long drawn out bracketology conversation before tournaments. And so at one point this year, I was like, Graham, like, let's just film it. Let's just put it online. We're gonna get crap for it. There's gonna be people that are mad. There's gonna be people that love it. But why not? Like during these kind of weird times, being able to put out some content to kind of drive interest and drive rivalries and whatnot. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And so then when we did, we got a ton of feedback from the local guys, and almost unexpectedly, it was from like the lower seeds coming into the tournament. They got to hear their name and their matchup on a YouTube link.
Yeah.
So the upper level guys that are in the semis and finals of every event, they obviously, kind of gave us some pushback here and there on it. But It was really like the guys that drove 3 hours and they're just like praying for a 5th or a 7th or a 9th. Those are the guys that really got lit up by it because they were like fired up about, you didn't pick us this tournament or you did pick us that tournament. And so that was a ton of fun. And then we kind of had this idea, which we're still trying to act on right now, which is to get other East Coast venues. So if you don't know, the East Coast has really got these beautiful pockets, these volleyball kind of havens, like the guys at Grand Sands in Ohio,
East
the
End.
guys up in, your former area in New York, and then down in Florida. So all these guys, all these beautiful pockets, we're trying to link them and have them start their own shows within the Eastern Volleyball Network. To try and build out this framework. So if I want to watch a finals or if I want to know about the matchups that happen in their tournaments, they'll have their own version of their shows. So I'm looking at guys like Joe Ruzick, who's kind of a local Ohio staple. He's got amazing insights. He's done one of our videos with us. And a guy like Chris Vaughn or Chris Frazier up in the Northeast.
My Jersey boy.
I mean, those guys, like, can you imagine like Chris Frazier like breaking down like early round matchups in like a GAV or EEV?
Look, as a general principle, Chris Frazier moves the volleyball needle. Okay, so if you want him on the show to talk about bracketology, if you want him on the show to talk about how he thinks he'll do in a tournament, or if you want him on the show to talk about self-lighting charcoal briquettes, you want him on the show because first of all, if you're doing a video thing, the camera has already decided that it loves him. All right.
Yeah.
This is what divides stage actors from film actors. The camera loves him. Some people the camera will never love. The camera don't love me. All right. I wanted to be a film actor. My BFA's in acting. I'm a stage dude. Second, like you said, he's got points. He's got a pretty good volleyball IQ, and the guy's always made every partner with him better. I saw him play with Phil Burrow at Manhattan Beach, and they look pretty good, together.
Yeah, low key, looking forward to it. I'm actually playing with Frazier next month in Ohio.
Get out. Tell him I said what's up. Tell him I love him. Tell him, it's weird because I got to know him more when I moved to California because in New York, I was strictly indoor. I was a Balmeso guy. I was a Pole Am guy. Those guys that go to nationals and like house everybody and no one knows who they are. I'm like, that guy's not even from New York. Balmeso, North Carolina, kiss my ass. Those guys are, come on, right? Liars. Yeah. You're all from uptown New York. You're all from freaking Washington Heights or Mocha or Santo Domingo. So
I'm originally from St. Louis.
Yeah, but those are the guys. But I was strictly an indoor guy. So Frazier, I got to know when I left, and he was a big NVL guy. And NVL was for a long. As far as like families are concerned, I consider your crowd very much NVL-esque. I'm not talking about the level. I'm talking about the emotional investment, the ability to debate healthily, the ability to be like, hey, thanks for picking against me, asshole. That one's for you, man. So if you remember it when NVL was around, it's very, very much like that, and I'm very glad to see it because that's to me that's what keeps volleyball going. That's what keeps volleyball going. Not the unfounded arrogance from a handful of people who are speaking from a perch and don't even come to the games. Like I gave Kevin Barnett shit a little bit because when he was criticizing P1440, he actually had an opportunity to go to Huntington Beach, and he lives like 11 minutes away.
Oh
And
yeah.
he talked about it and he talked about it and he talked about it and like Casey came on the show and Casey's like, dude, why you always got to say something bad? You couldn't say one good thing, man. I mean, I come on your podcast, no one listens to this, I don't say anything bad about that. So getting
No,
back
the
to what I
super
was saying,
excited for you guys.
I really like the emotional investment you guys in each other. I like the brotherhood and the sisterhood. And I like that you guys welcome volleyball players of all venues, right? You got Trevor, you
Oh,
got you talked about Ian Satterfield, who lives pretty close to me. Mark Burek was my neighbor in New York and is now my neighbor in Hermosa Beach. So
what a
Samuels.
great job they're doing with Better Beach, by the way.
Yeah, Samuels. We coached together. When we had to go to work, we didn't call each other. We yelled from our deck, from our deck and our roof. Let's go. I'm driving. I'm
Yeah,
walking.
what an amazing resource. He's come out here to North Carolina and actually
Hmm.
trained with us a little bit. I've gotten to pick his brain. So Samuels and Trevor Crabb, and then internationally that
Mm.
Pedro Salgado guy are all guys that I look up
Yeah.
to as a real small
Oh,
blocker,
Pedro. Yeah.
to try and be effective. And I
Hmm.
got to have one in my backyard. Well, not
Those are
mine,
two
but
hybrids you just talked about, Samuels and Trevor. Guys who
yeah.
can play back row defense, who can interchange, but for some reason they're so good at that one thing. It's like, all right, fine, I'll fucking block,
Those
fine.
are the guys that I look up to as like models,
Yeah.
role models to watch. And I gotten to meet and train against
Sean
both of
Ledig says,
those
"What's up?"
guys in the
Sorry.
West. Pretty amazing.
Sean Ledig says, Kevin. Jimmy Faye says, hey, Kevin, the sandy scientist, the vectored volleyballer, master of meats. We have the meats.
That's a whole nother facet of my
Yeah.
life.
I'm,
I was at one point a barbecue competition cook and restaurant cook for 3 years back in St. Louis. So 8 years
please,
ago,
let's do
I
it.
just got a notification on Facebook that we won. That was when we won Best in St. Louis and got to go to Memphis in May for nationals for barbecuing.
Wow, dude.
And I was the ribs guy, and I helped run the restaurant. I was the assistant pit master.
Did you
So
go
it's
to the one in Tennessee this year?
what
I
did you
think
say?
there was an AVP in America, and I think in Nashville. Did you go to that one?
I didn't get to go to that one, Hyden
No.
Beach. I wanted
Yeah.
to, but
No, there was something else happening that weekend, right? There was it's in Atlantic City or something, right? Or so, but
oh, you might be right. There's
yeah.
there's something else. I know I wanted. I had it circled, but I couldn't really make it work. But yeah, Nashville's a hell of a barbecue city itself.
Yo, I'm coming. All right. I'm coming. All right. Vegans, I love you out there. Okay. For the vegans who are doing it so they could live longer, and for the vegans who use it as an excuse to be a snob. Okay. This podcast is not for you. I want some barbecue. I want some ribs. I want some chicken. I want some shrimp. I want steak. Kevin
Yeah,
Knight.
man. So that's actually how I got my in at Myrtle Beach the first year Adam Roberts had me out. So more weirdness for me. My smoker that I have since I was 17 fits in the back of my Honda Accord. I'm 28 now.
Okay.
And so I had this smoker on me at the time. I went down to Myrtle and I was like, Adam, I'd love the opportunity to cook for the guys that you have at your house. I know how to do this. And he's like, oh, so we don't have to like cater or like everybody go out and find dinner. And I was like, nah, man, like I
Let's
can
throw
take
it
care of
down.
it.
Yeah,
No
let's throw
big
it down.
deal. And so I went out to the grocery store and picked up everything I needed and like on the spot did a whole pork shoulder, pulled pork and salmon for him. And he was like, all right, every year you're coming back, bud. And so even though I couldn't really keep up on the volleyball court with him and the guys he had there, I could provide really good barbecue and that actually got me in with him. And now I can hang just a little bit better with him now. And so
I'll,
it's a barbecue and volleyball
yeah.
tradition in Myrtle that nobody knows about.
All right, three things. One, love me some Jeff Samuels. We were talking about him before. Jeff became a better coach by coaching. He was looking for some extra cash, so I recruited him to coach with Endless Summer, which is the nation's leader in recruitments per capita. We have a 22-person group, but everybody goes to college. And Jeff, along with Pompilio, who was Jose Loyola's coach, and Arturo, me, Jaron Barreto, the Filipino guy with the long dreads, Rob McLean, great coaching staff. We had one coach for each court. So Jeff, I think, learned a lot about his own game just by showing. So that's what I think helped him as a coach. Trevor Crabb, we talked about Trevor. Love Trevor to death because when I was doing the beat for interviews for Volleyball 1-on-1, Trevor always picked up the phone and said yes. And for me to build my brand. So, because of people like him, I actually got a chance to interview every single person on the AVP.
Oh wow.
I don't think I left anybody out. Everybody. And this is Phil. This is Nick. This is before the podcast. It was a volleyball one-on-one. And if you go on
Gotcha.
YouTube, you look at volleyball one-on-one, you'll see some of it was on site. You know, Trevor was on site, and some of it was telephone. Trevor, FIVB Vegas P1440. He finished third, lost to Mullen Sorum, I think, and
Yeah.
Brendy Wilkerson. So I love him for that. Now, Adam, I love that guy's skill set because he lived in New York for a while. I brought him to a place called 145th, and my New York people, I have a big New York following, and this is where all the Facebook views come from. There's a place called 145th. It's strictly mostly Dominican, but it's not for fucking freshmen. It's strictly linemen. They have a rule: if you can't take care of first hit, you can't play. So you could be 6'8" and you're gonna play middle. Nope. You know, I mean, go bump the ball against the wall 100 times. So
Yeah.
Adam came through one night, and everybody in this, because the skill set is so tight, and Adam came in as a white guy or whatever. They served him every ball, and Adam dimed every ball. Adam had to hit middle. I was setting, so Adam basically was passing middle of the court, gave himself some height. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Created his string where he was quick but didn't have to be fast. And I was just setting ones, not even the push one's on top of my head, ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam. So that was the first time I met Adam. I had one of my friends that went to, that's from Latvia but played for UCLA is like, you're going to love this kid. So when I came to California, I was like, okay, same first and last name, but
Same dude.
no, yeah, I can't be the same dude and both of that. Can't be the same first and last name and two different people and both of that good. That's no. There's no two unicorns like that. So, you know, I was very happy to see him resuscitate his career because when he was playing Lawrence, I'm like, he's in the draw, but he didn't even look interested. I'm like, Adam, you know, what are you doing, dude? You don't even look interested. And he's not going to get mad at me for saying this because I attack volleyball players with volleyball. You know, I didn't say anything about his mother. And then something picked up. You played one with Phil. That was fun. And then shortly after that, picked up Banesh. And then on center court, beat Stafford Slick and Billy Allen, which
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
amazing.
that was one of his bigger wins.
Oh, yeah.
So big shout out to him. So along with him, and I have another close friend, Dylan Marek, who played with Dave Palm. They beat Case Bear and Shock on center court in Hermosa. So that was the tournament of the upset. Yeah, I got my team and Earl. That was his first main draw ever. So you know, after 7 tries, and if you've ever met Earl, if you've ever met Earl, you want nice things for him. You want good things to happen to good people. You know, so. All right, so there were some questions I wanted to go through before I fly off the handle like I just did, right? I just steered us off the cliff and drove us
you're
back
good.
up.
What do you want to know? I'm an open book.
You played with my man Chris Flood.
Oh yeah.
What university? Tell the audience.
I played at a small liberal arts school real close to where I grew up called Missouri Baptist University.
Yep.
And I think they were probably one of the only schools that was willing to take a 6'2" middle.
Yeah.
That's what I was in college. And we had a hosh-posh team of all these kind of like random guys. Like we got Flood from Lees McRae,
yeah.
guy that jumps 44 inches and pounds. We brought in this like 6'6" Serbian guy who was just an absolute animal. And we got Shane Welch from I think from Hawaii, and he was probably the best middle in the country at the time especially for NAIA. And then I think we picked up Loyola's like #1 setting recruit because his girlfriend went to our college. Kyle Foley was a lefty. So we just had this just absolute freak team in the NAIA, and we were whooping up on really anybody we could. I was like one small part of it and I just had a blast. Like imagine you're the other team and your middle is trying to figure out how to block a 6'10" guy that's going over you every time. And then the 6'2" guy comes in and is just like smoking, 31s and ones before you're ever in the air. So like Shane is hitting like 1,000 just straight over the top of the block. And then I'm coming in right behind him. And I'm kind of like, every once in a while, just putting a ball away before you ever got in the air. So it was a blast to play on that team and just be that like one small piece as we just fed Chris Flood and Shane Welch. And
What year?
I was in college 11 to 15, and it was really 2015. We won our first national championship,
Wow,
largely on the backs of our setter and that Serbian guy and Chris Flood.
Yeah.
and then also Shane.
Flood's got a
And
nasty drop shoulder, man. Flood is
oh, it's
yeah.
wicked. What all those guys could do to the ball was just so much fun
Serve
to
to
be.
space was good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one
And
day,
good passer too.
yeah, one day I had a training session with him. When I moved here, and this is 2016. I was doing something co-op called co-op practices, where everybody would come with two drills, and when if it was your drill, you were the coach. So it was Chris Flood, it's Hagen Smith, St.
Okay.
John's kid. He just I think he had one more year at UCLA.
Mhm.
Cole Fears,
Okay.
Greg Faulkner, who everybody loves. Everyone
Yeah.
asked to play fours, but nobody asked to play doubles. Cal Northridge guy, right?
Yep.
Myself, just an old guy, but I'm just trying to get I'm just trying to get my coaching muscles on. And I ended up just coaching the whole thing anyway. And at the end, everybody left, and Chris Flood played with Faulkner. All he needed was the big 6'8" blocker against me and Rob McLean. Now, I don't belong in this category of players. Okay, I'm 47 years old, right?
Yeah.
But if everyone's good, you don't know that I don't belong because my skill set's tight. My
Yeah.
first hit's good. I'm an indoor setter, so my hands are interchangeable. Grass, beach, volleyball, you name it, whatever. So, but this man served to space. It was 10-4 before we could blink. And then
Yeah.
Greg, all of a sudden, Greg's inspired, and Greg's like, "Hey, I think I got one too." And me and Rob basically got served off the court. And Rob looked like he was just gonna leave. He just was not interested in playing. And we grouped, in 5 sets, win some, lose some. I won a couple, they won a couple. I'm not gonna reveal the winners, whatever, and this and that. So
This is a baller, man.
yeah,
He steps up to
but
any competition. It's
but I
it's awesome.
but I really really liked him, and I really respect his volleyball IQ for such a young person. Right now, he's coaching. He was doing the academy, but I think he might be doing a lead or something. But I know he's working all day, all night coaching. The dude is like exhausted, and so
All
is
volleyball all
his
the time.
wife. But him and
Yeah.
Greg, they live in the same house, so I mean, it's easy for him to choose a partner to play pickup. But big up to
Yeah.
that dude. Big up to all the times we have dinner and disagree with each other, call each other out of our fucking minds. But that's what volleyball is all about. So, but I'm really so good for you. And NAIA is no freaking joke, dude. I started watching it with my boy Seydou. He's
Yeah.
from Ghana, West Africa. He won
Oh
with
yeah.
Park,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then
That was our
and
rival.
then transferred and won the next 3 years at Cal Baptist. Before
How
Cal
about yeah.
Baptist was him and his cousin Shamzu, both from Ghana, West Africa. Unstoppable. If you ever seen this guy, if you ever watched you probably seen this video. It's a viral video. Jump serve, right
Yep.
on the overpass
Comes
in the
over
D
and
zone.
hammers.
Yes,
Yep. I've seen it.
Seydou has that on his profile
That's
because him and
incredible.
Shamzu look like each other. But I was like, Seydou, come here for a second. Be honest. That wasn't you, right? And he goes, that was Shamzu. So Shamzu looks like him. Their technique is the same. Shamzu's about 3 inches tall. He's 163, 166. So
Yeah.
Shamzu basically, and you saw the video, jump serve, overpass. No, no problem. I'll handle this. Boom. So the whole time everyone thinks it's Seydou because they're both dark in complexion from a distance. They look
Yeah.
alike. And but I love me some NAI because of him and because of guys like him and because of guys like Gary House.
Yep.
And we could just name names for ad nauseum. I wanted
Yeah.
to give you some advice if you're going to continue to play with Yurko.
Yeah. By
I
all
wrote
means.
I wrote some notes down as a coach, and just so I want the clickbaits for people to tell me to shut the fuck up. Sorry, shut the freak up. Um, for Oceanside, the Strand, man, definitely get more back sets in your life. I think you move
Okay.
the blocker around, and I think when you're up in the air and you're doing this, they don't have any idea where you're going anyway. Two, whenever you warm up and whenever you train, always set always start high because it's easier to bring down the set high and bring it down than it is to warm up. Because some people don't take warm up seriously. Basket catch,
Yeah.
this and that. Always go high and bring it down. It's a general, like a high school thing, but I swear to God, it's going to work for you.
Appreciate
Um,
it.
and yeah, man, never mind. That's it. That's all I got. Because you guys, knowing your partner is golden because you are in a situation you didn't have to deal with your partner, if you know what I
Right.
mean. And your partner didn't have to deal with you. So but you, for sure, definitely work some back sets, Ocean and Strand. I mean, Bill Kalinsky got all the way to the semis just doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I like to move the set around when I can because I was in middle in college, so keep
Yeah.
the ball is kind of my thing. and it opens up a big hitting shoulder as well for me. I think part of it is just we haven't trained a ton together,
That
so
was it. That's
it's
why I asked
been
that
kind
first.
of yeah, going with what we know. I'm hoping I'm hoping TJ will stick with me for a few more events, because I mean, after people watch him on YouTube, his phone should be ringing off the hook. The guy is just he's got it all, from serving, from defense, from siding out to setting. Like
Well, he's
he's
watching this, and you need to stay with this dude. Stay
oh
with
yeah,
this dude. There
absolutely. I'll
is
play anyone he asks.
there no, but there is success that comes with this. Like,
Yeah.
look, try and Trevor, small. I mean, not a big team, splits block. Trevor Crabb's not exactly the tallest middle blocker, and has success with everybody he plays with. You are a hybrid. You're athletic. Your serve to space divides you from everybody else that you're separating yourself from. As far as separating yourself from the pack is concerned, for everybody listening out there, what's the difference between all these jockos getting their freaking AAA and sitting there walking around thumping their chest and saying, I play open? All of those guys can hit, all of those guys can set, and all of them can assign a row beast at the net to block, a cave troll, if you will. Serve, serve divides the elite players from the top of the qualifier, bottom of the main draw, and the bottom of the main draw to the people that just keeps giving the AVP their money and getting eliminated first round. Serve is key. And then indoor, it's the middles. The difference between double A and open is the middles, and outdoor, I'm telling you, it's serving. Your serve is beast. Glenn Bicko says, you didn't tell me this on the phone today.
Ian's my guy. He's somebody I got to play with last year, actually in Nashville, and we were a 6'9", 6'2" split blocking team that made it all the way to a finals against Danny Cook and JD Hamilton.
See what I mean?
He's another one that's just
Yeah.
so much fun to play with, and we connected with. And it's funny. I think I only have a little bit of that on film, but whenever I got served, we pretty much exclusively ran shoot sets for me. The guy's got like hands of gold, and so he's just chucking these balls out to the pin, and I'm just hammering and screaming my head off. He's got some great stories about me too, if
Yeah.
you ever want to hit him up. But
Yeah. I mean, look at the Latvians, right? Split block. I don't think Smedins is as tall as Samoilov. Splits block.
yeah, well, and so in my case, it really stems out of. I mean, you obviously know this from the East Coast side, but there's just not a dearth of really like high level blockers that are making main draws or making deep runs and qualifiers.
Mm.
And my thought wasn't like I'm going to be that blocker. My thought was I could probably pull better partners by doing the job like decently well and being just a really strong side out and pretty good setting blocker than I could being in one of the cesspool of great defenders where you got Angel Dace, you've got Cameron Beans, you've got
God, love me some Cameron Beans, dude.
you got Yurko,
Yeah.
you got any number of the different Ohio guys that are really, really good. And I'm sure I'm missing some phenomenal Florida players as well.
Yep.
All of these guys probably, I mean, if I'm being totally honest, all of these guys would pull better blockers than I would if I were to be a full-time defender and kind of demand the role.
Agreed.
Because they've got a better skill set for it at the current moment. I mean, I picked up Beach like 4 or 5 years ago. And so these guys have been playing for a lot longer at a lot higher level. And so my thought process wasn't like I need to be this dominant blocker. My thought process was if I can score points with my serve and be this like side out heavy, good setting, transition setting blocker, then I should be able to pull way, way better partners than I would otherwise. And that's,
Definitely.
I mean, you look at Yurko and you look at, I mean, this guy, Dave Arnold, is another kind of hidden gem that I was able to pick up last year. Those guys are better volleyball players than I am, but I somehow, was able to convince them because I was able to do the blocking role well enough to convince them to play. And it's worked out super, super well for me.
Yeah. I mean, to me, look, there are going to be people that have more volleyball experience than you. There are going to be people that have better defenders, people that are better blockers, and people that come in with a resume that commands the respect that we just gave them their due respect. But the bottom line, common denominator is, or when you're in the court, I'm one of those guys. Either you do or you do not. And for me, as far as you go, are you getting the job done? The answer is yes. As a coach, I mean, take my sentiments multiply by 8, and I feel the same way about coaching. There are so many coaches on the beach scene and the college scene whose playing pedigree got them the job, and they command respect. And you're not going to say they don't know what the hell they're doing, but at the end of the day, like Bill Parcells says, and the best coaches are from the East Coast, so I got to refer to him. You're as good as what your record says you are. It is a cold, cold world, and this, my man, is ice. So
Yeah.
I'm very. You've only been doing this for 4 or 5 years, and you picked up so many things so fast. Very, very happy at what I see, and at the same time, I don't see you walking around like you got it all figured out, because that's where some people's progress gets halted, and that's where a lot of these players who've been playing longer than you, that some whatever. I'll just keep it real. Some in whom you have caught up and passed. Okay, being real here. Some in whom you have caught up and passed. You ain't got to say that because you're a nice guy, but I don't. Or whatever. I do what I do, and I'm attacking volleyball players with volleyball. That's where I think has halted their progress, where I still see you moving up. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's about having a
Yeah.
growth mindset, and it's about being open to
Yeah.
playing different styles with different partners, and
Yeah.
it's also about, I mean, for me, it's been much more about honestly seeking out feedback from people that I respect, and taking that feedback to heart. Like, so TJ, one of the greatest things about him is that he's willing to give you feedback, and he's willing to be blunt about it, which is a bit rare to
Yeah.
find in today's day and
So he's
age. And
interchangeable then. He's one of in partnerships. There's no such thing as 50-50 control. There's
right.
always going to be one person that has a little bit more control than the other, and there's some people who are built to take the initiative and direct traffic, and there's some people who are just really good at giving control, and there's a handful of guys that are interchangeable. So what you're telling me is he's interchangeable.
Yeah, I mean, he looked at me and he's like, "Hey, man, to be successful inside out, if you're getting served a lot, you're gonna have to develop your shots. Like, you've got a really good swing. That's the only thing people know that you can do, and you got to develop shots." And like, so many people have told me like, "Oh, you need a better overline, or you need a better cutty." But to hear it directly from my partner after an event where we finished in the finals, and then to his credit, I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna work on my shots. You focus on setting, because I'm getting served every ball." And he went back, and that's the only thing he worked on down in Florida. And then when we got back together in Myrtle Beach, we had the tournament of our lives, because I spent a month and a half nailing my high line and nailing my cut shot. That cuts down my errors from 5 errors a set to 1 error a set, or even less.
Yeah.
And all of
Focus
a sudden,
practices
the
are golden.
sets are way more consistent. But it's only because we were able to have that honest feedback from each other. It was not malicious. It was just critical in a way that it needed to be.
Pat
And,
Cronshaw,
and
no
so
love for
it
the
was really, really
sorry.
cool for me to experience that.
Sorry, Pat Cronshaw, no love for the blockers. LOL, just kidding. Good stuff, guys. Jimmy Faye, reviewer 2, is probably a cave troll.
I'm a scientist going through the peer review process right now with
Okay.
with my thesis work, and it's a brutal process, and that is literally like one of the reasons that I can take feedback, is because in the science world, when you submit a document for peer review, your peers are supposed to absolutely shred you, and that's what's happened to me, and I'm kind of dealing with that at the moment. So
Okay.
it's definitely crossed over from the science world into the volleyball world, where it's like you got to take your lumps and you got to get better where your weak points are.
Well, the difference in your world academically and my world academically is yours at least serves a purpose, okay? I'm in the fine arts program for acting, and you want to talk about peer review, and you want to talk about critique and tearing someone apart, where you have to have thick skin, or you'll just go crazy. Your next performance, you're just not going to do acting anymore because you're always thinking about what people think about you. But that's where the comparison stops. Peer review, science, research, thesis. Yeah. So what kind of sciences are you in right now?
So I'm doing a PhD in pharmacology, which is the study of drug targets, and with an emphasis in biophysics, which is how molecules move in three-dimensional space.
Yep.
And I have a lot of fun with it. My boss is somebody that is essentially like a father figure with me at this point. And he lets me do my work whenever I want. I can come in early in the morning and leave midday to train, and then come in the evening, or I can wake up at noon, and after a tournament or something on a Monday, I can wake up at noon and come in and work for another 8 or 9 hours after that, as long as I'm making progress. And so my day to day is essentially I go in, I design experiments, and then I implement them, and I analyze data. And that obviously is, I mean, you probably tell just from the way I look at volleyball, that's definitely benefited me greatly, having that sort of scientific mind. Um, and so it's just married perfectly with my volleyball career, because it allows me to have the flexibility and freedom to train when I need to train and to go to tournaments when I need to go to tournaments. That's unlike a lot of jobs that people my age have.
Yeah, no doubt. Me, I am not a 9 to 5 guy, dude. I worked in a cardiology practice at
Gotcha.
Weill Cornell for a doctor that they call the Doctor of the Stars, Dr. Rosenfeld. He had his own show called House Calls on Fox. He would just answer questions. He was a health editor for Parade magazine, for Vogue magazine, and people come in, Ron Howard, Milos Forman, the president of this country, Bill Clinton, whatever. So I hated it because the time you spend away from a 9 to 5, if you spend 6 to 8 hours away from your 9 to 5 pursuing your career, your 9 to 5 is not your career. It's just a fucking job. I'm not casting any aspersions on people that have 9 to 5s. There are people that are like, wait, I'm supposed to be here at this time and I do this job, and at this time I get out. Good. Cool. I get out. But I was coaching NCAA at night, and I was doing auditions in the morning. NCAA, we leave on trips on the weekend. I got to, take time. I use my vacation days for that. But when my boss retired, passed away at 91 years old, I was like, for the same shitty salary, I could just coach. I could just do this shit full time. And New York, I took as far as I could go. Baruch, me and Justin Stack.
Yeah.
We took Baruch to their Final Four. That's as far as we could go. Hunter High School, we won the PSALs, whatever. Madison Square Garden gave me Coach of the Year. This is like 2014,
Oh, wow.
and I'm like, your head hits a certain ceiling, and that's why I'm out here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Plus, my girlfriend's rich, so I mean that's cool too. But
That works.
but for you, how does someone like you avoid something we affectionately refer to as paralysis through analysis? Do I need to
I
explain
actually had
that?
to battle this, especially earlier in my career. So there's I forget, I feel terrible for forgetting the video, because this isn't by any means like my original thought. But
So
there's this great
disrespectful.
video where people are talking about having a player one versus player two mentality.
Hmm.
Player one mentality is the killer. That's the one that is all instinct, and you're just in a flow state, and your body seems to just take over and do what it needs to do to get the job done.
Hmm.
And that's where you're playing your best and you're playing lights out. And then the player two is the analytical, the self-critical, the one that's breaking down film, the one that's breaking down weaknesses, the one that's breaking down the other team's advantage and disadvantage. And the two have to have some kind of balance. And my issue was I was player two all the time. I was always overanalyzing and breaking everything down, and I was never really playing in the moment. Or when I was, it was fleeting. And the way, so this is something else I'm not ashamed of, but it's definitely just the way I play.
It's a
The
reality.
way I end up figuring out a way around it is I go absolutely berserk after every time I get a kill. And the reason is it keeps me in just without thinking, it keeps me in this very intense, very focused bubble that is my player one killer mentality. And so I actually don't think very often when I'm on the court. Sometimes between plays, you'll catch me kind of doing the Billy Kalinsky, like strategizing, but it's very short, it's very brief, and I'm right back at it, and I'm trying to go nuts again, because that is what keeps me, focused, and it keeps me in this. I don't doubt when I go for a huge blocking move. I don't doubt what I'm doing, because that's just what I'm feeling needs to be done. Or when I pull off the net, I just pull off the net, because I'm not thinking, oh, is he going to swing? Oh, is he going to shoot? I'm like, this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Or when I hit a huge jumper at 12-12 in game 3 for an ace, it's not I need to hit this part of the court because he's looking like this or he shifted like that. It's like I tossed the ball up and I saw the way he was leaning, and I just hit the serve because that's what needed to be done. And it was really a change that clicked in 2019. In 2018, I was losing a lot of early rounds to teams I felt like I shouldn't be losing to, and I never understood why. And somebody at a tournament came up to me and was like, dude, when you're playing your best, you're going crazy after every point. And I was like, yeah, but I don't need to do that. I need to be, this hyper analytical and very cold, calculated player. And he was like, no, just let it all loose.
Mm-hmm.
And be the guy that screams his head off at 9 a.m. in the morning. And when I really bought into that hook, line, and sinker, I stopped losing early matches. I mean, obviously, in qualifiers it's different
It
because
is what it is. Yeah.
that was my big breakthrough psychologically. That's helped me out a lot in the last year or so.
Yeah, knowing yourself and knowing what works and what doesn't is very, very good. It's weird because the whole time you're talking, I'm like, this guy's on the wrong podcast. He should be on John Mayer's, like John Mayer's Coach Your Brains Out or whatever, and like the
Yeah,
science and
that's
how
a
you apply
phenomenal
the sciences in your
podcast.
time and this and that. I'm calling him tonight. I'm gonna text him tonight, actually. I was John Mayer's. I worked with him at LMU. I was the
And
director
I'm
of
not telling you,
operations.
you were like director of
Yeah.
operations, right?
Yeah, which I had the coolest job in the world. Like a DOO is different things in different regions. Like in Texas, director of operation gets the coach's coffee. I'm not fucking doing that. All right. On the East Coast, a DOO is like liaison between the athletic director and the head coach. Just take
Yeah.
care of the bells and whistles. John asked me to film every practice, every game, email him 4 things that I liked and 4 things I need to get better. That was my only job because he knows I came to California with already an elongated and heightened pedigree of coaching that commanded um, kind of instant respect that a lot of people who didn't recognize me wouldn't give
Yeah,
me.
that
So,
level. Yeah.
yeah. But John is, yeah, man. I'm gonna text him tonight because a conversation with you guys, not even on the podcast. I would just love for you guys just to talk to each other. You know what I'm saying? So
That that'd be amazing.
yeah, I
I
like that
appreciate
guy. First time I met him, it was in Mexico. Indoor versus the pros, indoor pros versus the beach pros games. I got worked.
Oh
He
wow.
he even gave me Ty Trambly as my partner too. So I mean, it was like, it wasn't, and that was 2015. So that's when Ty won Chicago. So I couldn't have had a better partner. But I got, the 2 biggest plays were he hit a ball hatch cross court. I'm playing, off the one block, and you know how someone hits a ball and you already know it's going to hit the ground and you just want to
Oh yeah.
protect your nuts and
Yeah.
your face. You kind of do one of these,
Brace
right?
for
So,
impact.
you know, so everyone started cracking up. But one play later, everybody stopped cracking up when Mark Cairns was his partner. And
Yeah.
I go cross court. He's in the hatch, and I hit the same ball back at him, and it hits like a part of the sand that makes it look like it's harder than it was. And it
Yeah, yeah,
goes
yeah.
straight up, and everybody's like, "Oh
Just popped
shit!"
up.
So I lost 15-4, but we had dinner that night. We had breakfast the next day, and there was this huge mutual respect. So that's how me and John left. And um, I want to give you some shout outs. Marco Santos says Kevin's great. Danny Kruchik says Kevin Knight, my man.
Those are
Miss seeing
libero.
that guy play indoor. Um,
Yeah.
I'm glad I pronounced the name correctly, but these relationships form. But there's something I wanted to get back to what you were saying. I like that you're engaged, but at the same time, you self-coach yourself about how big something I call big waves crashing. Right?
Mm.
Like you want to be emotionally high, but not too high. Our philosophy is for every 5 points you get on the high, you're going to give up 9 on the low,
Oh yeah.
because the bigger your wave is, the bigger it's going to crash. So you'll see maybe someone like you, or maybe even Bill. All right, Bill's analytical, but Bill will have a moment. Yeah, let's go, and then right, wheels it
Yep.
back in, catches the fish, Jeff Schitzel style. So I love the way that you found a way to do that, and at the same time mediate your ebbs and flows. Because as far as volleyball experience points, that goes beyond one's years too. You and me, between the both of us, off the top of our head, we can probably name one person that starts high and stays that way through a whole tournament. But those fucking people are unicorns, and we need this. We need to take them to the lab. I'll take them to your lab, and we need to study them because those are rare. For me, Fallon Funumawana.
For me,
That's
it's
someone that starts high, stays high. Go ahead. Who's yours?
I was gonna say Stafford Slick. He's just hot all day long. That guy's pounding balls, blocking balls, jump serving balls. I mean, at the AVP level, they don't have to play as many as we might on the East Coast.
No, you just
That's
play
another whole
5 and you're
topic we can
good,
get
man.
into if you want to, is the tournament style play versus AVP or qualifier style play. Totally different beasts.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah,
I mean, Phil's
it's
lasted this long, right? All you got to do is play twice Friday, once Saturday, and twice Sunday. Say
strategy,
what?
man.
Stay in the winner, stay above water, stay in the winner's
Not worried
bracket.
about cramping,
Yeah.
not worried about
Like
first match.
I'm sure Jay Gibb gave it to Taylor Crabb when they lost first round in Austin.
Oh yeah,
They had to win
Paul
9 matches.
Dave Ospina.
Yeah, and Paul Lotman, yeah, former indoor U.S. national team guy, right?
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
was outside and serving specialist. Guy's
Yep.
got a rocket.
Yeah, he does. Talk about serve to space, huh? And then finished fifth with Miles in Chicago. I thought it was a pretty well, him and Ospina is an interesting pair. So Miles Partain is. I think anyone Miles Partain plays with is going to be an interesting pair. You could play with Phil. That's an interesting pair. He plays with Ty Loomis, jump setting, getting his highlights and some, however big the loss and this and that. So one of my questions, I had a category thing, which I promised it would be podcast malpractice if I didn't introduce these things before. Again, as you can see, I drive us off the cliff and come back. Your science, your occupation, your career. There's an old saying, Yogi Berra says, if you enjoy your job, you'll never work a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you consider it work?
It's definitely not. It's definitely a passion project of mine. I try to explain it. It's pretty hard to explain in fine detail, but in a larger sense, if you were to imagine like the entirety of human knowledge as a circle, you'd have to zoom in like a million times, but then eventually you'd find the edge of human knowledge, and I would create a very, very tiny bump. And that is 5 years of my life to create that tiny bump outward towards a new step in the human knowledge base. And that just for some reason can light me up. I'll spend late nights doing it. I'll spend early mornings. I've spent one time I spent 36 hours straight in lab because I was just excited about this part of the project I needed to do. And so, I mean, we have food on campus, so I had food stacked up in lab, ready to go, and I just kept going until I had to stop. And it was not out of anything my boss mentioned. It was just this was an experiment I needed to do and wanted to do, and that's what it took to do it. And then I got it done, and I got some amazing findings out of it. But it isn't something that I think about as work. It's something I think about as just part of who I am. It makes sense to my brain the way it works, and it's hyper creative. It's hyper frustrating at times, but it is definitely something that I could see myself doing it for the rest of my life alongside volleyball.
Yeah, listen, for everybody listening at home, this is what having a career is. This is what divides having a career from having a job, okay? A career, there are not enough hours in a day. A career, you go to sleep at night and you're thinking about your project the next day. You, my man, have a career. Me, I have a career. I coach club in the summer. I'm with Duran. Good. I coach indoor evolution. These knuckleheads out of Redondo High School in South. All try out and play for the same club team. That's work if you want to be, because you got to compete with all these other savages. So to me, living in a video room like a hermit, I already showed you around this is my office. This is my command center I have at home. That's why I asked you that, because to me, it's not work. Now, a job, you get up, you're like, I don't even want to roll out of bed right now. You roll out of bed, you get there. And when you get there, only 2 minutes go by and you're like,
yeah,
the hell's wrong with this watch? I had a job for a long time, but I guess the guy that I worked for and had the honor and privilege of working for made it a fun job. It wasn't a career. It was something that paid my bills until, my late bloomer ass figured out what I wanted to do when I grow up. At least, right now you're 29, right? 28?
28. That was barbecue for me, by the way, back in college. That was a fun job.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. Those are one of them things where it's like, those are fun jobs. And for everybody listening, and you want to do what this guy's doing for volleyball, you want to do whatever I was doing for theater, just don't get in it to be a fucking star. Just keep your head up, put your nose in the work, and don't mix your goal with what the net result is and what the expectation is, right?
Don't tie yourself worth to it.
Goal, acting, keep it about the work. Action, objective. Net results, I become a star. But
right.
but like volleyball, you can't come into volleyball thinking I want to set the world on fire. That is the net result of what your intention is, what the obstacles are, what your tactics to navigate around those obstacles are. We call it GOAT. In theater, we call it GOAT. Goals, obstacle, tactics, expectations. So big up to you for doing what you're doing. All right. All right. Here's my other question. As I think I might be wearing this guy down.
I could do this all night if you want to keep talking.
Nah, that's cool. That's cool. And you look like Captain America too. That's one of my favorite lines. He's like, I could do this all day. And the other cat, he's like, I know. I know. I know. I fought you before. Um, at what point in your volleyball life, this could have been indoor and this could have been beach, but I want you to just pop into a certain memory in your distant past or recent past. At what point was there a particular tournament or was there a particular match that you left the court saying to yourself, I think I could do this for real? This is what I want to do for a career. Was there a defining match or defining tournament that you left the indoor gym or the beach court telling yourself, this is who I am, and I want to do and I can do this shit. I can make a run at this seriously.
All right, so
The floor is yours.
I got a bit of a long-winded answer to this.
I've
So I
been
was
talking the
actually
whole fucking podcast. You go, man.
I was actually cut. So I played the first team in St. Louis, high performance. My 17s year, I had to play up, and I played on the first team for the 18 squad. We had a good team that year. Chris Lischke ended up going to USC and starting for them, and we had some other good guys. And then my second 18s year, so would have been my senior year, I actually got cut from the same team. And obviously that was really hard for me because it's hard for anybody, but to play on the first team and then get cut from it, for me was devastating. But in the end, it ended up driving me even harder because I needed to prove that I was worth it. And so then I kind of snuck in and I got recruited by a couple MIVA schools, D1, D2 schools, but I don't think super seriously. And then I got into MOBAP as a small middle, and I could stay close to home, and it was still just me wanting to prove that I could play middle at the collegiate level and that I was worth it, because getting cut was so hard for me to deal with in high school, and so then to get to start at MOBAP for 3.5 years ish, and finally get to that national championship level, even though I was again like a small part of that team, but to get to start for a national championship team kind of finally validated that hole that started when I was younger and the indoor side. And I had that thought of like, well, what can I do further? But I had come to peace with the fact that at an even higher level, either professionally or at the D1 or D2 level, this a 6'2" middle, you can't even tap block with the guys that are 6'11" and jumping. You just can't. Yeah. I mean, it's not, you can't tap block and close the block. And so I knew that at that point, like either I had to try and change positions, which I never played anything but middle throughout my whole life, or I needed to stop playing indoor, like at a serious level. And that was where I kind of fell into beach. And then beach was this entirely new beast where I refused to play a AA tournament. I would only play open, and I'd go 0-2 or 1-2 or 0-2 every open tournament.
Okay.
And out on the East Coast. And so just getting the pants beat off me by guys like Angel, Brian Tillman was one that just absolutely slaughtered me. But in that time, I was just so hell-bent on getting better, and it was my outlet during my PhD. It wasn't really even a thought of winning money. It was just something to do to get away from the lab at the time, because I was under a lot more stress back then than I am now. And so to kind of wrap this story full circle, I got everybody telling me you're 6'2", don't be a blocker, and here I am as a blocker. And I'm kind of definitely, I was searching for validation after kind of going 0-1 at some qualifiers and having more people tell me like, what are you doing? And this past year, I had this really awesome opportunity, and it came about through luck and knowing Adam. But Adam Roberts set up a kind of a quiet secret KOB at John Sutton's house, where he had Adam Roberts and Ian Satterfield and this couple other guys that are solid, like local guys, myself, and then Nick Lucena was the kind of the ringer of the group. And for some reason, I mean, it was right during my, it's right on my birthday. So it was like my birthday week, and I showed up, and I just had like the day of my life. And so at the end of the day, the dust settles in our format. It was the top two guys get to pick their partners. And I had this I want to explain this to you because you'll understand why this was such a big deal for me at the time. So I had this decision to make. I ended up going undefeated that day, which was wild.
An anomaly, right? Yeah.
I had the 1 seed, and then Nick Lucena had the 2 seed. So I got to pick my partner. And I either had to pick Ian Satterfield, which I would say most people would expect me to pick to take away Nick Lucena's like blocking option, or I could, the other guy that was kind of the other big name there was Adam Roberts, who I knew much better than the rest of them. And so if I picked Adam Roberts, that's giving Nick Lucena the blocker. And obviously this is, you know, for fun, but it's also for money. So the other guys there, I don't know how, I'm sure they were trying, but it wasn't like a do or die for them. But for me, it was like this really big deal because I'm the small fish in their pond. So I ended up going with my guy, Adam Roberts, because I was like, I know how this guy plays. I know that this guy can give me the sets that I need to side out at this really high level that I'm going to need to side out at against these like really, really amazing athletes. Like Ian is an absolute stud himself. And we ended up winning a 3-set match in 3, like 15-13. And I think, you know, we had put, I don't know, I think I ended up walking away with like $200 or $300. But that was actually the moment for me. And this says nothing about Nick or Ian because like they're both right side players. So it's kind of
No, and we're not talking about them right now. We're talking about you.
Right. So, but for me, this was like the moment where the light bulb went off, where it was like at a freaking minimum, that match proved to me that I could at least be like a mid to high qualifier, if not bottom, like main draw guy, either split blocking or blocking for somebody that's like a stud defender. And that really solidified and validated all of the time and effort I've put into being an East Coast blocker, because it allowed me to have confidence and say, hey, I can pick up a really good quality defender and I can side out all day long and I can set this guy wherever he needs to be set and I can compete with anyone. You know, again, I'm sure up until a certain point, I'm sure there's some point that the guys will get big enough and physical enough to where I really do need to either split block or defend. But long story short, it was the same sort of validation moment for me that happened in indoor, but it happened out on the beach where I was able to really put my fist down and say, it's not a waste of time for me to take blocking reps and pick up, you know, because out here we all coach ourselves. And so I can get the reps that I want. I could demand to play defense like all the time here. And that would be something that people out here would be cool with me doing. But it validated like, hey, I can work on my small man blocking game and really take this somewhere. And it was just, I mean, it was just such an amazing week for me. That was definitely an emotional high that really is similar to what I experienced in Myrtle Beach.
Do you want to know the most intriguing thing in this long self-critique, or I won't say diatribe, but the most intriguing thing I got out of that was your command decision to only play open. It's the smartest thing. It is the single most intelligent thing you could have ever done for your volleyball career. Everybody else is like, oh, you got to play this, you got to play that, and you work up. And then the problem is there are some people they learn as they go along and they get better, and there's some people they get stuck because there are certain type of volleyball personalities that play to their level, right? My girl, I'll tell you about my girl. She plays with a bunch of short double B people. She's a double B player. She can jump in on a scrimmage with Betsy Flynn, Allie McCulloch, or whatever, and again, she looks like one of them. I'm the same. The smartest thing you've ever done was not you put yourself in a position where you're lost in a double A or single A storm. I don't know you personally, and I'm taking an educated guess on your personality and your competitiveness, but you understanding that there's a certain level that the level of humiliation will result of you not bringing nothing but your best is the net result. That might mess with your pride or not. Maybe not even pride. Just mess with what you want to do. You could have easily gotten lost in double A or triple A. Easily been like semis or finals, and especially if you're the type of guy that looks to the left and to the right and is worried about what everybody else is thinking and getting caught up in the validation game. You know, whispers here like, oh, he didn't even make semis for double A. How's he think he's an open player? So, so if you're that type of personality that only wants to compete with the best, you did the right thing. And if you're that type of personality that sometimes maybe what this person says and that person says might get the best of you, you did the right thing. So like in every single path that I'm assuming about your personality, and I'm wrong about your personality, and that I'm right about your personality, the net result's the same. Yeah. Smartest thing you've ever done in your career. When I left overseas, I don't mean to make this about me, but bear with me. I played in Darmstadt as an outside hitter. All
Okay.
right. And then later converted into a setter because I ran into a coach at the Olympics. I was at Barcelona watching the USA play Japan in 92. And coach Mario Tribic, who was the coach of the Netherlands. I didn't even know he was. We're talking about set trajectories, just this old guy talking shit. And then he like leaves me in the middle of a sentence, uh, hooks up with a couple of 7-foot guys, and I'm like, okay, that's the coach. So he told me, you're 6'1", but my wingspan's 6'8". All
Yep.
right. And I'm left-handed. Told me to set. I got back from the military. It's no indoor professional league here, right?
Right.
I had a 2-year contract in Darmstadt. Got hurt. Short guy, Brooklyn guy with an attitude. Didn't keep me. Got cut. Blew up to 265 pounds.
Jeez.
Blew up. No open tournaments for men's indoor, right? For New York or for the Eastern. Most of them are double A. So next thing you know, I'm playing double B here. I'm playing double B there. And now I have all this weight that I'm dragging with me. And when you're in your 20s, you don't see it. You can still jump because you still got the muscle. So now it's my right Achilles. Then it's my left knee. Then it's my back. And then as you land, the shock of the landing, that's my swinging shoulder. And now I'm permanently a setter. I'm not even good enough to be an oppo anymore. Never mind an outside hitter. Something happened. I was married. Me and my wife split. Directed all my energies. Lost 65 pounds. Got back into whatever. And then went from this guy who was losing double B and just went to play grass. Like Sherwood. Sherwood, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Play with my boy, this kid that I was coaching at City Tech that ended up playing for Balmeso. They call him Big Evil. Flacco. His name is Eugene. Played open. Won with him. From double B to back to where I belong. Open, won. Then little Ronnie, wound up against Ronnie, who played for Creo. Semifinals, me and him battled it. I don't even remember who won. And he's like, I'm so glad to have you back because I was at Hunter for a cup of coffee before Marymount Manhattan, before my acting program. And that one semester, I played against Ronnie twice at Queens College. And Queens, Carlito was the head coach, and that team was boss. So it was so weird. Mike Salick, these guys, these East Coast names, welcome back. And then next thing you know, Balmeso, they won Nationals 2004, 2005. I didn't go to Nationals with them, but I helped them get a bid, so
Yeah.
they wanted me to pay money. I'm like, nah. But the point I was trying to make was I spent, from 94 to 2000, I spent the better part of a decade thinking that, things change and maybe I'm too old and this and that, and maybe they're right. Maybe if I can't win a double beat tournament, what the hell makes me think I could play open? So the reason why I'm saying this, and I'm coming full circle, I promised I would. If you're the type of player, and I'm not saying you're a type of person. You're very fucking unique, my man. You are not a type of person. You're not like anything I've ever talked to, in fact. But if you're a type of person that plays up and down to the level, paying your dues all over again is not the way to go, I moved here to California. Dude, I was not having it, because it took me forever to get to back where I had to go. And as far as coaching, people making me pay dues all over again, I'd rather just sit back, grab a video camera, and talk behind the camera, and then someone say I got to prove myself all over again. Which, by the way, that was my break. Casey Jennings saw me, and he's like, that guy's got balls, and we won him with P1440. John Mayer's like, dude, you're in California. Remember me? Come to LMU. Deron Forbes, the beach director, didn't know me from a can of paint, but we sat in beach chairs watching the sunset, and I blew her mind on just some of the things we talked about. And the only thing she asked is, do you have a resume? She said, never mind, just come tomorrow. So it was just about not accepting anything but the best. Sorry, what are you going to say?
I was going to say iron sharpens iron, and that's how I look at it. I mean, it's the harder you can play against somebody, and the more the more you can learn from them. So I'm always looking to be the worst person on any court.
Yeah.
And a good example of that is the first time I got to play Nick Lucena and Pete Devonaire was like 3 years ago, and I was not very good. But I was like, this is the only chance I may get to ace Nick Lucena. And so I spent the entire match jump serving him instead of serving his 50-year-old partner. Mm-hmm. And we ended up losing in 3, 22-20. I don't think my partner talked to me for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But I had it in my head. I was like, I want to see if I can get past this guy. Mm-hmm. And I never did, obviously, at that point.
No,
but it was a testament to the way I think about it, which is like, I want to go play against the best, train against the best, get beat by the best, and then eventually be the best that I can be. And the way I do that is by trying to surround myself with the best I can.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I mean, I don't mind being a blocker on, when Phil Dahlhauser's the other blocker. I don't mind being a blocker when Trevor Crabb's the other blocker. I'm not saying I can hold a candle to either of these two guys, but if that's what it takes to,
I mean, who does? Who can?
yeah, I was gonna say, like, if that's what it takes for me to get better as a player, then that's what it takes. Let's
Wow.
go.
I mean, right? Who the hell's gonna say, "Oh, if you're not better than them, you suck"? There's this
Well, I mean, some people just don't
huge
want to get
fucking
exposed.
gap between you and like Phil. That this slew of players that I'm sure you're better than. Kevin,
Well,
sorry.
it's a lot of people just don't want to get exposed. They don't want to get exposed for who for the weaknesses that they see in themselves. Like,
Yep.
I'm well aware I got all kinds of stuff that isn't great about me or isn't great about my game. I mean, we all do, but like, everybody's acutely aware of their own issues, and by playing against the best, they get exposed. And that is how you get exposed. You go against. For me, it was like early on. You go against a guy that's hyper consistent, like Adam Roberts, and he makes you look like a fool because you've aced him 0 times and he's aced you with a standing float serve 5, and you're just kind of sitting here like,
okay,
wow,
yeah,
I thought I
there
was
it is.
decent until I played against this dude.
How silly of me, right?
Yeah. But then that gets you better because you go back and you take 1,000 serve receive reps 5 days a week, which I've actually done before with my guy Greg Vogel. We've literally had 3 of us and done
Vogel
700. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys I train with, St. John Beach.
He doesn't know
He's
me,
a guy-
but I know him, and I like that guy.
Yeah. So he and I and another guy here, Andrew McMurray, we've done literally sets of 100 serves at a time to get better at serve receive, because what we realize is like everybody out here gets aced too much when guys from Cali come in. And these guys from Cali come in.
And did
you can't
not
get
say
a
that
ball
from the
past them
beginning of the podcast.
because they're playing in deep sand and wind, and we're playing in shallow sand and not
Yeah.
a lot of wind out here in Raleigh. And so I don't know. I'm off on a tangent.
No, but didn't I say that in the beginning? What's the difference
I'm not afraid to get exposed, I guess.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? I said that as that's the biggest separation in this outdoor scene. It was the surf, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but you called it. And Kevin, this is not just a technical thing. This is an emotional thing. All right, like when you realize who you are, and then you have these moments, and you take these victories where you can and where you deserve them. It's an emotional thing. You're this. It's almost an exhale. Like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. This level, I'm here, and now on to the next one. To get where you are in this short time, had to go through certain levels, and each time you have that realization, I mean, and you have that realization, it is an emotional thing. I'm gonna cry just listen, dude. I'm gonna cry just listening to your fucking story, because I'd like to take this podcast and make it about me, but I'm not going to do that this time around. I'm just going to leave it about you, and I'm going to leave it about every single person. I'm going to give you the floor. Every single person that can share your story. The people listening to this podcast, I don't need to say anything about me anymore, because everybody has those moments whether you just come short or whether you get over the hump. You're just fucking tears, man. It's emotional. This is who you are.
You got to keep playing. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, we all get hit in the mouth. I mean, I've had 13th place finishes at tournaments that I thought I was going to win. I've had second place tournaments at tournaments I thought, like Myrtle Beach, that, like on paper I would have no business being in that championship match. And the fact that I continually come back and play my heart out. Last year I played, I think, 35 tournaments, if you look it up. I mean, 35 tournaments.
Jeez.
I'm paying the entry fee. I'm doing the work to pick up a partner. I'm traveling wherever, and I'm competing.
Good.
And that's really what it comes down to. It's learning how to compete, but it's learning how to be a partner, and it's learning how to bring out your best when you need to. And that's the reason I'm able to have these moments. I think deserve is a loaded word. I don't think anybody deserves anything. I don't deserve a win for playing this much.
You are what your record says you are.
It just comes with the territory of learning how to win and learning how to be the best guy that you can be. And by doing that, you end up with people that are doing the same thing. I mean, I can't tell enough people that, that are willing to listen to me, like, success spirals you upward. Whenever I had a breakout finish here or there, somebody would notice and be like, hey man, you want to run one? And it's like, you'd really play with me? And they're like, well, you played your heart out
Yeah.
and you did a lot better than I thought you were going to do. So yeah, let's see if we can make it happen. And it's like, people don't realize that sometimes it's these random tournaments you go to that you make these connections, and then all of a sudden you're playing with somebody you never thought, like Chris Frazier. Like I'm playing with a guy that I watched on Clearwater Beach 4 years ago in my first tournament outside of North Carolina. I went down to Clearwater Beach for their end of the year tournament. That's
Still
going to
stays in
happen
great shape.
in a week or whatever. But it was 4 years ago. I watched Chris Frazier and I was like, if I could ever play with that guy, like that would be absolutely amazing. And here I am, in November 14th, we're going to go play one in Ohio. And the guy is like super psyched to get on the court with me. And I'm like, how did this happen? And it's like, well, I mean, since that time that I watched him in 2016 or whenever, I probably played 100 in some tournaments. Actually, I know I have, because I bake a batch of cookies for every single tournament. I'm on batch 124. And I started that in early in 2018, if that gives you some idea of how many tournaments I've played.
Yeah, man. Good. At least you're doing it on the beach, man. I mean, if I played 100 tournaments in 4 years for indoor, man, the nurses would be wheeling me out to this podcast. I'd have to like, get away. What you've done, Kevin, right now is put yourself in a position where pure meritocracy comes into play. Right now, the selection of partners becomes more vast, and now you're put in a position where, all right, you get to play with this person, and now you do or you do not. Because volleyball players coming up, and this is important that you hear this, sometimes life isn't fair, all right? Like, to me and Kevin are having a stair running competition up a corporate building. I run 44 floors, you run like 60, all right? That's meritocracy. Running the stairs is meritocracy. Getting in the building is not. Choosing the set of stairs is not. So what you've done the last couple of years, Kevin, was put yourself in a position where true meritocracy comes into play, and I'm glad you don't think of deserve, because deserve in your mind and in many instances mine is the end result.
Mm-hmm.
Your second place, you deserve it. Your first, you deserve. You're 13 in a tournament that you thought you finished first, probably deserve it, because now you put yourself in a position where the partner selection's good. You're playing with people on your level or better, and which is all you can ask for, which is what I really want from my boy Evan Corey. I really, you want to listen to a good podcast, man. That is not. He came on twice. The first time he came on.
I did. I listened
the first time he came on, man. He blows up, man. The dude blows up. He had 17,000 views. Dane Blanton's an Olympic gold medalist and only had 16. So he's got a following. So
he's a heck of a guy and a heck of an athlete. You know what I mean? It's like he's got it all going for him. Like this guy's got a freak vertical. He's got a freak arm swing. He can jump set. I mean, he's kind of like.
And yet don't have to deal with your partner either. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not even afraid to say this, because if it happens, I'm happy for both of them. But like, he's similar to TJ Yurko, the guy that I played with, where it's just, if you could like create a defender in a vacuum, like that is one of the guys you'd create. Yep. And if you could create a freak small blocker in a vacuum, like Evan Corey is like the guy you create. Yep. And like the two of them, I mean, would be phenomenal.
There's nothing like watching that guy hit live. Because if you watch a video and you watch his wrist away and everybody's like his wrist away, like some people watching on cameras, like, what the hell? You just let that guy just do this, and just because he does that, he's going to get a kill on you? Get on the fucking court. And see, and if you're matrix, because I'm one of these matrix defenders where if I'm in a zone, I'm moving normal speed and everything else is moving three-quarter speed, of the time. So that's how I know I'm in a zone when I'm playing defense. But every now and then, something in my three-quarter zone, it goes, and I'm just like... Okay, what was that? That, ladies and gentlemen, is Evan Corey.
Yeah. I mean, his phone's going to be ringing off the hook for next year. I'm positive. He's something else. And I actually got a chance to go head-to-head with him at Grass Nationals, which was wild. I've never played grass, so it was my first grass tournament, and I was going head-to-head with Evan Corey. And I mean, he definitely got the better of me. Yeah. It's probably on Bounce Beach as such, but like getting to experience that line swing from probably 11 and a half feet in the air, it was like, I don't understand how anyone stops this guy indoor. And beach, I mean, he's definitely a potent attacker himself. So
He's
I'm excited to see what he's got going for him in the future. I
he's
mean,
good for the sport too.
we all just have different routes too. I mean, it could take me 7 years from starting to finally hopefully crack a main draw. It could take Evan Corey 3 years from start. I don't actually know when he started. It could take him 3 years because he's got all the tools put together quickly. Some people it might take 12 years. I mean, I don't know. So I'm not as worried about, for me, when it will happen. I'm just kind of focused on being the best that I can be, and so during the season I triple down. I always say this: I triple down on my strengths during my season. So my serve is my strength. So I work on that every single time I'm out. I'm jump serving the entire practice, which is obnoxious for some of the people I'm playing against. They're like, dude, it's 6:30 in the morning and you're line acing me with your serve. I'm like, it's just.
Oh, then
like,
go back. Tell him to go back to bed. You know
I triple down.
what the hell you get up 6:30 in the morning for if you're not going to do that?
And then my entire off season, I work on my weaknesses. So my entire off season, I'm trying to hit line shots. I'm trying to get faster. I'm a little bit slow footed. I'm working on a variety of different sets, especially bump setting. I try and take everything with my hands, and that's actually been a detriment to my transition bump setting,
Right?
Because I just don't do it all that much. But it's having this knowledge of like, maybe it's going to take me a little bit longer than most to be there, and maybe it won't. But that's not something I can necessarily control. What I can control is to get like 1% better today and 1% better tomorrow.
There it is.
I might even I think I have a double training session scheduled tomorrow.
Good, better, best. That's what John Mayer calls it.
On serving and passing, and evening working on implementing.
Yeah.
So it's this just constant focus, being impatient the day of and being patient on the longer time scale. Does that make sense?
Yes. On Bounce Beach, Graham Wren says, talk about the shadow ban.
Oh, have you heard about this?
No.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Let's educate the masses, baby. Let's do it.
This is hysterical. All right. So you can actually look this up. So the guy I mentioned earlier, Ian Bicko, he's this awesome, like 6'8", 6'9" blocker. He's actually a training partner of Evan Corey's. So for some reason or another, so these two play against each other a lot, Evan and Ian. For some reason or another, Bounce Beach has posted a ton of Evan Corey bounces or blocks or Kong blocks because they're just like highlight reel plays, which is understandable because, like, I mean, they're just unreal. But Ian, every once in a while, not every once in a while, most often, will be the recipient of the Bounce Beach post. So it'll be Evan Corey like Kong blocking Ian, or it'll be Evan Corey bouncing line on Ian, or it'll be Evan Corey faking out Ian with a jump set. And even one time it wasn't even Evan Corey, like somebody like underhand served a ball and it like dropped between Ian and his partner, and Bounce Beach posted that. And so ever since then, Ian Bicko has been posting highlight reels of him playing, which are very legitimately awesome plays. Like it'll be like a sideways falling away set that's like perfect to his partner to kill. And he always tags Bounce Beach and then puts hashtag shadow ban, because he's convinced that there's a group of people out there that are maintaining that he will never be on Bounce Beach as like the subject. And so there's this Instagram war that's silently being fought by Ian Bicko on a week in and week out basis against the shadow ban of Bounce Beach, which is, I don't know, like for me, it's amazing and hysterical to watch. I'm sure nobody else cares, but for me, it is a really, really funny back and forth between Ian and Bounce Beach.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Kelly Wood.
If you haven't checked it out, check it out. He's always the recipient of a Bounce Beach post, which is hysterical. There's people in Brazil that are posting, let's get Ian onto Bounce Beach, and then they'll post a picture of him getting highlight reeled on. Like he has no idea how this is happening, but
I had
consistently gets posterized.
A similar story. I had Phil Burrow on the podcast, right? And
the guy turned Cali, right?
Yeah, and I like him a lot. He brags as one of the only people to play on all 7 continents. You know him.
Okay.
Oh, he's played in Antarctica, so Australia.
That's wild.
So how cool is that? You play on every single, have played volleyball on every single continent. But I have a video highlights from 2018 called Hermosa Beach Top 10 Plays 2018, because when I was doing the beat for one-on-one, I used to just do these top 10 things. And everyone liked my top 10 because the AVP's top 10 were only center court. And my top 10 came all the way from the root of the qualifiers, all the way up to like Saturday. And then Sunday, I just took the day off and watched everything from home. They're like, you're in Hermosa Beach and you're not going to go. I'm like, hell no. I got a big ass TV, shows me like 5 different angles now, So Rob Diorora made one of my top 10. He got 8 blocks. And I said, he didn't just get 1 block. He didn't just get 2 blocks. He didn't just get 3 blocks. He didn't just get 4 blocks. He didn't just get 5 blocks. And I went all the way to 8, but all 8 blocks
Wow.
over on Phil Burrow. And he's like, dude, I got a bone to pick with you. He says, I make your top 10 highlight the other way.
Yep.
Great. The only thing you got to say about me is I got blocked 8 times by Rob Diorora. And then like a month later in Manhattan Beach, Theo Brunner gets 8 against Troy Field and Chase Frischman. So, listen, someone does the posterizing and someone gets posterized. And that's how you know volleyball has arrived, just like every other sport, man. You take it like a man. So
I actually want to play up that a little bit. And so what's really cool in our own experience with this weird little YouTube thing where we make our predictions. So I initially thought, and completely wrongly, that people were just going to want to know like our Final Four, kind of like March Madness, like who's in your Final Four, who's going to win. That was my thought, was like everybody just wants to know who we think is going to win. And so we would do these bracket videos and then post them, and they got like a surprising amount. We thought they'd get like 12 views or something. They got like a surprising amount of views, like 100 views or 200 views. And
it was like 100 the first day.
Yeah. We're not really like super focused on like how many views we're getting, but it was cool to see. It was like, oh, they're like, presumably most of the tournament's watching them because nobody else will. Like, it's a random Wilmington tournament. Anyway, long story short, I'm under the assumption that it's like the top matches that people are wanting to hear about and the matchups and how it all breaks down. And so, unfortunately, on one of our videos, you can look it up. It was done with Joe Ruzick in Ohio. We ended up having to split the first half, which is all the random first, second round matches of low seeds,
right,
from the final, 5th place, 3rd place, 2nd place matches. And what we ended up finding out was it was the low first round, second round matches of teams that nobody's ever heard of, that everybody wanted to hear about. Like nobody cared who we thought was going to win or what we had on the first and second place matches. Jeez. Everybody wanted to hear like the random, the local guy from Ohio who drove 2 hours to get here, but who's been playing here for 20 years, is playing with this young up and coming kid, and they're the 28 seed playing against. I don't know what that'd be, like the 6th seed in match 1, and do you think they can upset them? That kind of stuff was actually what drove the viewership. And so it's kind of similar to like your highlight videos where everybody's expecting it to be center court, and everybody thinks that people are going to want to see the center court matches. What you don't realize is it's actually the rest of the people. It's the people that make up the local scene that are the heart and soul of who's watching.
That was the qualifier. But that highlight, that was Rob and Rob. That was Rob McLean, who's not just a friend, he's a brother from another mother. Talk about a good training partner. We'll get into him at some point in the distant or near future. But you called it 100%. I think the thing that made the whole NY varsity thing take off was the qualifier matches, was the exercise of local talent that I exclusively videotaped from Huntington Beach, Hermosa Beach, and Manhattan Beach. Huh? Yeah.
That's what I was watching.
Hell yeah. Listen, you just never know what you're going to find. One of my first qualifiers when I moved, Huntington Beach, check this out. This is 2016. Reed Pretty and Kame Schalk against Kevin McCulloch and Rafa Rodriguez. That's a qualifier match. What the actual fuck? All right? Let's go back 2 years later. Baranek and Matt Prosser, cancer survivor and former AVP, faced Derek Olson and Paul Lottman. That's a qualifier match that you will never, absent of me sticking a camera behind it and talking shit.
Never would have seen it.
No. And Eric, he made number 1 of my top 10 plays on that because he did this left and right drill. Like Lottman hit a ball left, he dug, but it was an overpass, and then he hit it really hard right. And then Eric ran to the right and dug it too. So it looked like he was doing like an indoor drill. Remember that left and right drill we did indoor? And this rally lasted like 35 seconds where Eric did a wrist away out of the middle, took his shades off, just flung them into the crowd, and this woman who just happened to be walking by, good hand eye, just looked up and caught shades and was like, where did this come from? And everyone in the crowd is looking at it like, oh, it's the guy on the court. And I did a pretty cool highlight at the end. Like, have you ever seen The Wire, the HBO drama The Wire? At the end where Marlo's like, don't seem possible. Chris is like, don't. I'm like, that's some Spider-Man shit right there. So I put in that little clip. And I co-sign with you, dude. It's the heart and soul. The Partain's qualifying for the draw.
Yeah.
The reason why that match was crowded when they faced Jess Samuels and Michael Brunsting was because the local scene followed him. He had to
Yep.
face Matt Martyr and some of these guys just to get to the draw. And it looks like there's bleachers in the background. And
That was one of the most hype matches I've ever
those aren't,
watched.
by the way, those aren't bleachers. And I think I said this on a previous podcast, and I'll say it again for people listening. And if you look in the background, there's people sitting rows and rows, and it looks like it's bleachers. Those aren't bleachers. Those are people that went to the bathroom. You know how like Hermosa Beach has these bathrooms that are like
Yeah.
these little small one-floor buildings?
Yeah.
They took beach chairs and put them on top of the bathroom and in front of the bathroom to make it look like rows.
What?
So, yes, so it looked like a center court NVL match, and it was a bunch of people that took all of the beach chairs, including Rosie's Raiders, and made. Watch the video. Just watch Partains against Samuels and
Oh, I
Brunsting.
definitely
and,
have. It's
and,
it's insane.
Yeah, it was magical, and it got ruined by. I mean, their first win got ruined by the scoring freeze. They're
Yeah.
14-11, and Jeff was like, "Thank God."
So
go
I'm trying to be you, but on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get venues to post their semifinal and finals around the East Coast onto a single YouTube page, not for anything benefiting me, just literally just to have the
Just-
semifinal and final matches that you would never see,
Hell
but
no.
on a single platform rather than having to go find them on their individual Facebook pages.
Yep.
And that was
Look,
an
it got
idea
me
I
work,
literally had
you know?
similarly because of you, where it's like you're never going to see a Wilmington Volleyball Series final because nobody around the country follows Wilmington Volleyball Series on Facebook. But if I can take that finals match and then link it or post it on a single YouTube page, if you're Chris Frazier in New Jersey and you want to see if Angel wins the final or if Kevin wins the final, then I'm going to have it on that single YouTube page. And then if I want to see if Chris Frazier or Chris Vaughn is going to win that final up in Gav in New Jersey, it's all on a single platform. That's kind of our mission and our goal is to be similar to you, to highlight the matches that are amazing that nobody else would see.
That's
Or
right.
to highlight when Adam Roberts comes back and plays, a Wilmington or a Raleigh or a Virginia Beach tournament, like, and gets heckled or something like that, to highlight that match in Virginia Beach, which is on our channel. That match was crazy. The atmosphere was so much fun and so cool. And, the fans got a little bit ridiculous, but I mean, that's part of the fun of volleyball.
Shit, yeah.
And you would never see that match if it wasn't for somebody posting it or
Someone who
filming
just
it and allowing me to
puts
post
up a
it.
camera. Hold on one second. I want to put up the just a clip of your finals because I had it queued up before.
Oh, for sure.
So this is one of the plays I liked, and it was oh shit. Sorry, it's gonna be 2009. I'm gonna go back a little bit. 2009. Let's do that. This is one of my favorite plays. This is good. You take something off the serve to space. I love that dig. And the transition. Watch the transition set. Like, not the best set in the world, right? But something he could put in front of him. And man, that dude, when you mentioned like his transition game and him just like anything goes as long as the ball's up. Yeah, if you could summarize like his game into one play or one point, that was it. So yeah, but you called it, dude. Just about. We don't do it for ourselves. We do it because it's interesting. We do it because we love the sport. We do it because we're engaged. And anything that comes out of that is just the net result of something. Like, for me, it got me a job at Pepperdine. I was doing all of their home games for beach volleyball. It got me a chance to call the Big West Championship with Mike Dodd and Tim Hove, Travis Muirwitter, who's like one of the best writers in volleyball, Rob Espero, who, if you don't know, you got to get to know this guy, the Filipino guy, chunky Filipino dude.
I haven't met him, but
He's my most viewed, by the way. He was on the podcast. He got 54,000 views on Facebook.
wow.
And I'm like, you got like hoes in different area codes. What's going? What's going?
Where are these people coming from?
Yeah, I know. Well, he is a UC Irvine guy, and he did a lot of indoor color commentary for, I guess, it was MPSF, but it's now Big West. And like Big West, I think, is it's Hawaii, Long Beach State.
Yep.
Irvine, Cal Northridge, so they have a pretty, like Mountain Pacific, they're their own two separate conferences now for men's indoor, if that ever comes back. But we're gonna wrap up in a minute, but I just wanted to I had something about the validation game that I thought we kind of already covered, but there's something I want to share and see if it applies to you. Like someone asked me how I'm doing and how I'm holding up, like in Hermosa Beach. Do you miss New York and this and that? And I'm like, Hermosa Beach is a place that if you're on vacation, you're like, I never want to come home from this vacation. This is it. It's a vacation I don't have to come home from. And they're like, "What do you miss about New York?" I'm like, "Whatever, same thing as everybody else. Good Italian food, good pizza. That's just whatever." I missed real people, but I don't miss real people that much anymore. Especially people that don't smile and say a fucking word. Where everybody is out here, everyone out here says good morning, this and that. So it's just a different atmosphere. And I told them, I said, as long as I don't look to the left and to the right too much, I enjoy Hermosa Beach. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, sometimes in my paranoid mind and all the work I put in, I always think that this person is looking down on me because of this one's looking down on me because he doesn't know me. And then in my mind, I had this whole like, hey, fuck you. I've been doing this longer than you've lived and this and that. And then I get sucked into something we call the validation game, something which I hate. So for me, if I look to the left and to the right too much, and I think someone's thinking this of me, and I might be right, but I also might be wrong, right? Maybe I'm just paranoid. I slowly become what I despise. And my entire first year here, because I was just, people were trying to make me pay dues all over again, which is the right thing to do. They don't know me, right? The fact of the matter is they don't know me. And I came in saying that I would. But at one point I told my wife, I was like, yo, if you want to kill me, take me back to Brooklyn and kill me. Don't let me, take me under the Verrazano Bridge, put two in my head, let me die like a real man. Don't let me die here in the sand in the desert like a snake, but that's changed when I just started doing what you're doing. You mentioned something like, look, I'm not worried about where I am or who's what or who's this. All I could do is take care of the things I can control. I put my head in the work and continue to put my head in the work. And things happen this way, they happen this way. If they happen another way, they happen another way. So I was gonna ask you how much does that apply to you, but a lot of that I thought you've already answered somewhere early in the podcast. But is there something you'd like to add to that?
Um,
It's an uncomfortable subject, but
I just described strongly to personal responsibility and just taking control of your life and your circumstance. Like I'm going to be in a different place than my co-host on our channel, Graham, is. He's a local Virginia Beach guy who wants to have a career and a life in Virginia Beach, and he's going to be an East Coast local forever. And
good place to be.
I have a
Yeah.
different outlook than somebody that is my age and married, and I have a different outlook than somebody that's my age and is buried under like a mountain of debt that they got a really excellent degree, but they've got a lot of loans to pay off. And I'm in a different situation than somebody that's in a super committed, really long-term relationship with somebody that's got a career and might need to time down. So my situation. I can't look at anybody else and say, they had it easy because they started playing when they were 6. It's like, well, somebody could look at me and say, you got it easy because you're a single 28-year-old that can do like whatever, whenever you want to do it. And then it's all relative. It's all relative scale. It's like, who are your bookends? Do I look at Trevor Crabb and say, this guy's had a volleyball in his hand since he was 5 and I shouldn't even try because I'll never get the amount of reps that guy has? Or should I look at the guy down the street that like barely has 2 hours in his day to do anything? He still finds a way to go out and train, and maybe he's not going to make a final at our local scene, but the guy still shows up and competes. It's like, if that guy looks at me, he's like, well, no, whatever that Kevin's making these finals, he's got all this free time to go out training. And then I could look up and say, well, no wonder Trevor's a world beater because he's got all these reps under his belt that I'll never have from when I was a kid. It's a waste of time. The only thing that matters is you sit down and you focus and you say, hey, what do I have? What reasonably can I do with what I have? And where do I want to go? And you don't really focus on much else, because like I said, like you can set your goalposts wherever you want. You could look at the world as like everything's out against me and I'm never going to get to where I want to be. Or you can do the opposite. You can look at the world and you can say, hey, I'm in a way better spot than everybody else and I'm so lucky and whatever. But neither one of those viewpoints gets you anywhere. What gets you somewhere is you say, what am I good at? What are where can I see myself tomorrow? Where can I see myself next week? Where can I see myself next month? And what are the steps I could take to make that eventuality happen? And sometimes that goes by the wayside anyway. Like you can last year I popped both my ankles in weird, unfortunate injuries. Like
what happened to you in Manhattan Beach too? Same. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, continue. But
Oh, I
you're
was just
right.
gonna say, it's just like you like you were saying, you just put yourself in the best possible situation within your life, and you don't really worry about the rest, because worrying about the rest is a waste of time. What happened to my ankles was I was in a training session just in the courts 5 minutes from my house, and I came down. This was the first one, and it was a month before I went out to Manhattan. I came down, and like my buddies told me that they thought I had literally like shattered my ankle. Like they were like, it was the loudest pop we've ever heard, but it was just a weird injury where I jumped sideways and I came down. So the sand around at the courts around my house is really packed. I
Yeah.
came down in this, essentially in this pocket of sand that's maybe this big, and it was just surprisingly deep. And when the front part of my foot stuck in and the rest of it rolled over, I mean, I literally, my friends thought every ligament in my ankle was gone,
Like
but I got really
everyone
lucky.
that saw it was like, oh.
And I was in a cast for a while. I was in a cast and a boot for a while, but I was able to come back and still train. And I actually played a tournament 2 weeks later, which was wild in and of itself. But then in Manhattan Beach, obviously I'm favoring one leg because my ankle's blown up on the other one still. And I was playing against Ian Bicco actually, and it was this weird set that was drifting in the wind, and he got sand monstered and ended up going down on one knee as the ball kind of drifted past him. And as a result, I kind of dodged him in midair. Like I kind of rolled in midair, and I landed on my good ankle and rolled that one. So it was one of these situations where it's like, I'm putting myself in the best possible situation. I've got myself a great partner in Dave Arnold. He's kind of like this volleyball wizard from Virginia Beach who's been playing since he was 7. Guy's like an animal. I've got myself a great partner. I've been put all the physical work in. I put all the reps in. And at this time, I am struggling to walk because I've got 2 rolled ankles, and neither one of them were my fault or anybody else's fault. It just was a freak circumstance. So you know what I mean? It's like I can't control that, but I got up and I got the medical tent to wrap it, and we went and battled Love Prima and Jacob Landell, and obviously we lost. But like I looked at it as like, well, okay, it's time to get better as a hand setter. So in practice, it was like bowl balls into somebody, have them pass, and I had to be in one spot and get better at not doubling so many balls. And that's the way I could control it.
Yeah. The peanut butter batch was the best one. That's Ian.
So I told you I bake a batch of cookies for every
Yes.
tournament.
Cool, man.
So I get I get suggestions from various friends of mine on what I should add or try, because I change one thing about my cookies every time. I'm trying to get the perfect chocolate chip cookie.
Amen.
And he maintains that the batch I added peanut butter to was the best batch of all time. And I maintain that if you add peanut butter to a batch of chocolate chip cookies, they're not chocolate chip cookies anymore. But that's a subject for another time.
Got it. I got a weird email question. No, I'm not answering that. No, come on. Did Oswald shoot JFK? I'm like, this isn't Ty Loomis. I'm like, you got the wrong guest. I mean, I definitely would love for you to come back on in the near or distant future, and we can discuss. As you know, I was in the medical field for a little bit, and just vaccines. Because the person I talked to is in charge of helping people prepare vaccines and medications for FDA approval. Her name is Kathy Parent. She has her own company in New York, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on another end I think would be interesting for our listeners, because again, it's not just a volleyball podcast anymore. It's got legs of its own. But I am absolutely honored and privileged that we got to get in here, and for almost 2 hours talk about nothing but talk about our what we do best and talk about our wheelhouse, man. It's volleyball. Before we go, is there any site that you'd like to plug?
I mean, obviously, Eastern Volleyball Network. We're trying to get all of our local scenes
Available where?
to blow up. So it's Eastern Volleyball Network just on YouTube right now. If you have any tips on what we can do to help grow that, and again, it's really just for the local scene. We want to have more eyes on some of the athletes and some of the guys that are out here grinding in our little volleyball pockets and our little volleyball worlds.
I would love to just go out there and call a match. Are you fucking kidding? Like, I would love to just call a match. Like, did you see the AVP, the qualifiers?
Yeah.
The reason why the qualifiers were even up, there was a girl named Renee. And of course, some of the players put up. Renee allowed me to take her live file, and drag it onto the Ninja Flame, the recording device you saw before the podcast. Mm-hmm. And my video switcher, I have a score cam on this phone. So the video switcher, the bottom of his, the very bottom is a scoreboard. So I used 90%
Oh,
video
wow.
of the game, and then the bottom 10% was just scores. And this allows you to type in the names. So if you saw something that had a scoreboard on it that had my boring voice on it, it
Yeah.
was because of Renee. So
Wow.
everyone's like, "How'd you get into the qualifiers?" I'm like, "I didn't. I'm calling it from home." I was Rafu's analytics coach for a couple of years, but I already told Rafu I'm not. I got people to answer to at home. I'm not, herd immunity is good for the single man,
Yeah.
So that's something I would love to just do for you guys just once, maybe a live stream or just this. I was watching his finals. I was thinking about dragging his finals to the recording device, putting a scoreboard on, and maybe some point me and you could do like a director's cut. We could just fucking talk about the game at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Mix the volume in
Yeah.
so it looks as if we're calling it on site. So
Yeah,
there's
that'd
a,
be
there's
dope, man.
there's a bunch of
I would
ideas
love
I could suggest to you, but I would love for you to find someone to call one of these matches, and I would love at some point to just visit and maybe tag team with someone. I'm interchangeable. I can do color or I can do play by play. And the thing about me is, and I've seen it on Volley Chat. People love me or they just can't stand me. They're like, I've seen some people say anybody but that guy, and
Yeah.
I am okay with that because I get attacked by a volleyball player with volleyball, right?
Yeah.
Do I love me some Jeff Alzina? Doing some color commentary? Hell yeah, him and that other dude they were with. Am I big on Kevin Barnett indoor? Yes, Kevin Barnett is God. Do I like Kevin Barnett's color commentary outdoor? No, not him nor Cameron Irwin. They're I mean for me, I'm gonna hit the mute button, but that's me, a volleyball person, attacking someone with volleyball. So
Yeah.
so for you, as you continue to be popular, take criticism. Only examine the criticism that's actually logically connected to what the hell you're talking about, and don't feed the trolls. Don't
Never feed the
feed trolls. Okay, Dana White, who's one of my favorite promoters and fight sports, he's a UFC guy. He answers every single troll back on Twitter. If he's on a plane, he's like, "Come on, which one of you motherfuckers are next? I'll take you all on by myself." He is insane. You are a billionaire, and I'm using that term loosely. He's the guy had a piece of selling it to whatever company that was, and is still the president, still making money as the president. So don't feed the trolls because it made him old and fat, and I can't even picture you old and fat. You look like Captain America, for Christ's sakes. I'm 40. I'm 50. So I did the right thing for a long time too. I don't look 50. I look like a unattractive 35-year-old. All right.
I was
So
gonna say, okay.
yeah. So what else? That's all? Is that all we got?
Well, I was gonna say I really appreciate the opportunity to come on, and I'd love to. I mean, again, if you want to do it again, I'd love to talk about the science aspect. I'd love to talk about cooking. I'm a huge guy into food. I'd love to talk about the East Coast scene, man. Like, there's a lot of hidden gems out here that people don't really know about, and we could do I could do the best of beaches that I've been to out on the East Coast or something like that.
Oh hell yeah.
There's a lot of ways we could take it. So,
Oh my God.
we could even do like a top 10, top 10 defender, top 10 blocker, hidden gems list on the East Coast.
Yeah, top
'cause
10
these guys
defenders
don't
no
even,
one talks
they-
about. That's what I'll call it. Top
Yeah,
10
yeah, yeah.
defenders no one talks about. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, that's insulting. And I'm like, no, ask that guy. If that's insulting, he'll be the first to tell you, you're right. Ain't nobody talking
Yeah.
about me. I think I'm good. Cool, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Listen, for everybody listening to this, Kevin Knight might love you, but I can't stand you. In fact, I had enough of all of you, all right? So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPad right now, for all of you in front of a restaurant on your iPhone waiting to get into dinner socially distancing yourself, for all of you on your desktop, who runs the world? Old school. For Kevin Knight, this is episode 60 of the Option Podcast. I am Jason DeBias, and we say, we're out. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify, and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.